Are you rolling? All right. What's going on, everybody? George Osei back at it again with another video. This time, we're going to talk about the tragedy in Minnesota. A deranged individual uh, shot up a school. Yes, so the one I care about the most is the actual victims. Hold on. It's a tragic situation. But first, we're going to let's have a moment silence for the victims lost to senseless violence. Okay. So I believe there were either 17 or 18 shot, two two passed. And CNN has a article here. Shout out to CNN. The victims, Andre Gunter, 13. He survived, but he wanted a prayer while he was in the ambulance, or was it the hospital? He survived. So yes, the young teen is one of the 18 people, one of the 18 who were wounded Wednesday after a shooter opened fire through the windows of a Minneapolis church. That's right. This guy shot from the outside of the church, and I thought that was peculiar. But as you can see, this is a what's it? Annucation Annucation Catholic School. Okay, so a religious school. The two children. Look at this, 8 and 10, and I believe they were praying at the time when this went down. So this shooter knew the prayer schedule and where the cluster of people would be. Now, I already know who the shooter was. That's not important. What's important is the reactions. Now, this is the mayor here with some fiery words. Here we go.
These were Minneapolis families. These were American families. And the amount of pain that they are suffering right now is extraordinary. And don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church. These were Minneapolis families.
Fiery words from the mayor. And he talks about thoughts and prayers, and I've been seeing this floating around. But um, private schools are gun-free zones. Gun-free zones. It is actually illegal to have a gun in a gun-free zone unless you have written permission or you have proper permits, or even if you are part of the government, aka the police. But generally speaking, depending on where you live in the country, you're not even allowed to have guns at a school. Now, how do you enforce that? You simply can't say this is a gun-free zone, so no guns are allowed. That clearly doesn't work. So the people who say, well, maybe if people in the school had guns for themselves, they would have been all right. But that would be breaking the law too. We have to think about, why do we even have gun-free zones if they're not enforced by police officers when there are people in the gun-free zone? There was a manifesto. I think he wrote it all in Russian. Now, a lot of these people, the Monday morning quarterbacks, they always want to cast blame, but you look at that manifesto, there was nothing reasonable about this guy based off what I've seen. Allegedly, he went to this school, so he knew the layout, he knew the procedures, he knew the schedule. Apparently, in his manifesto, he wanted to mimic prior shooters by targeting gun-free zones, and he purposely wanted young children to really, drive that knife in deeper. This is not a reasonable person. Yet, legally purchased all his firearms. Which tells you that these background checks have flaws in them, which explains why have a gun-free zone if your background checks are so flimsy. Why have either? Then, of course, if you look into the personal life of the shooter, he hated God, obviously. The mental health, according to, I don't know how valid this source I did see. I don't know if I can pull it up. Apparently, this person was sexually violated when they were younger. Okay, maybe I made that up. Can't find where I seen it. Where they said that he might have been a victim of sexual assault, which led to the deranged thinking. Either way, this is just nasty work right here. And it definitely deserves a conversation. Like, ineffective laws and policies. Apparently, criminals don't follow none of these things, or deranged people. So, why do the normal people have to follow laws that the deranged simply ignore? We'll never get the answer to these questions. So, if I was you, man, I'll carry carefully. Because ain't nothing promised over here. Mm-mm. Any other takes? Okay. Let's get into the controversial article then. Actually, no. Before we get into the controversial article, let's show these. I'm trying to think, is it ethical to show these pictures? Well, some of the victims, Fletcher, me show you Fletcher. This is Fletcher right here. He was 8. Regular kid, fishing, cooking, sports. Personalized memorial honoring him features hand-colored drawings, balloons, stuffed animals. No signed mom that reads, "Love you always and forever." And this is Harper. Harper was 10. Bright, joyful, of course. Yeah, this is unspeakable pain. This is one of the survivors here, Andre, from earlier, 8th grade. This is Sophie, another one who survived, thankfully. So yeah, shout out to CNN, man. Again, well wishes to the families. Okay, now we can talk about the shooter. We know about the shooter. So I pulled up this article. I had to find the most disrespectful article. The most. Like, come on. Here we go. Zoom in. So we have a transformer who was mocking the name here. 23 years old. So this person was born 02. How am I getting you up text at these hours? So I'm doing my mathematicals. Yeah, 02. Let's see. Yeah, he was ready to mock Christians. So he purposely had a beef with religion. Of course, when you believe you were born in the wrong body, that's definitely an attack at God. No doubt about that. But most people just try to live with their truth. Not this guy. Clearly says he's not in the right state of mind. There was one portion, I think he was diagnosed with cancer and hated himself because of it. But there was one thing here. Damn, this was probably something I seen on Twitter or Reddit. But in a manifesto, he talked about how he was disappointed that the drugs he was taking would never make him into a real woman. Just a lot of like you're on hormones drug therapy, which is drugs that alter your brain. He was 23. How old was he in 2020? So either his first year of college or final year in high school, he was locked up on brain altering drugs while dealing with various traumas. And then you snap. Some conversations need to be had for certain. Okay. That's enough of me. Where do you see this? Like, comment, and subscribe. I'm George O saying, I got nothing more to say. I'll be easy.